Okay, I'm gonna keep on rolling with the same project. After the joke break, I'm gonna keep on going here. We'll go from nodal point 4. I went to the Ionian last time, so I went from the Dorian, mapping it out at 4 o'clock, to the Lydian. So maybe now we go to let's go to that Mixolydian actually, because that will be another kind of way of a bluesy kind of thing we can think about, which makes sense, I think. And then we'll go to the crazy Locrian. The crazy Locrian. Okay, so let me open up and then to start off here, I will just noodle around, and I'm thinking of just staying in the collection notes around the key of C this time, and like practicing more technique, like I don't know, tapping or like slow, like softer picking, and then I kind of like this idea of like over, like I slide up, but I like, so I'll go back to 4 o'clock again, and I'll just do more technique thing, and then I like slide up, but then I go past the node that I want, and then I slide back, so I'm like here, and I'm like, but I go too far, and then like I bring it back, that kind of thing, and then just throwing in half steps, that's what I'm thinking. So just gonna set this up real quick, and what if I did the design? That's not right. Drawing. Dang it. Get these all messed up all the time. Layout. Yeah, that's it. Layout. Layout. Margins. Okay. And then let's check my tunering. So at the margin, I prefer butter. You gotta make the decisions at the margin, but I prefer butter. The margarine. You gotta make. Okay. Let me get my other glasses. All right. Let's go back here, and then I'll just see if this is properly aligned. Guess that works. Whatever. So let's try this quiet technique. And then I was trying to tap with my right. It's funny because I'm better at drumming with my left, which is weird, isn't it? Is that normal? better with this hand than this hand. These two fingers don't work. Ah, drop my pick. Pick it up with my foot while I'm playing. No one notices I'm just picking the pick up with my foot. Oh, that was slick. Can I put the pick in my mouth now when I play the... I feel like it's okay. My foot is clean. Rub it. Rub it off. Okay. Alright. Anyway, let's try a joke break. All right, I'm back to the woke right and the woke left being the uniparty of crazy. They have merged into just the woke party, and I think we have to come up with new names for everything now, because once again, the names don't make any sense. The names don't make any frickin' sense these days. Do the montage. Who's in charge of the montages? These people all sound the same. They got the same script. I'm telling you. YouTube is passing. I don't know who. The social medias are passing out the script now, man. They got it from. I don't know. The New York Times is now. I don't get it. I don't know what's going on. But Trump's standing strong, man. I tell you. Probably wasn't good to go after the Pope like that. I don't know, but I did. I mean, probably that wasn't the best. But I could see why he's a little annoyed. He's a little annoyed. Okay, so I give him a leeway on that one. I don't know what's going on with that. Anyway, I feel like both the mainstream of sewage media and the woke right are about to fall back on the tried and true method of argument when they don't have any actual facts to support their crazy positions. That's when you know things get crazy. People start getting violent. They start threatening people and stuff because they're saying stupid stuff and they're embarrassed, right? Like, okay, look, you're just stop saying stupid stuff and then you don't have to like get crazy and violent or anything, you know? I mean, it's not that hard. But they're going to just start performing at this point. They tried upping the swearing level. That was the first step. We're going to up the swearing level. Megyn Kelly is reaching max social media acceptable ranges of swearing at this point. I think the social medias have basically given her like an exception because of her numbers to up the swearing, and she's taken advantage of it, man. It hasn't really moved the needle much. Well, okay, it moved the needle a little, about 10 minutes. For about 10 minutes, that's kind of what happens with the shock factor. You get the shock factor for like 10 minutes. It's kind of like the Megyn, or what is it, the Disney Star Wars impact. We'll just kill all the main characters and make them look lame. And everybody's like, whoa, they tune in for that. But then it falls off the cliff after that. It's a short-term strategy, short-term shock factor, like yelling in all caps, big impact, zero substance. So now they're going to have to go to the poetry strategy. They're going to go to the good old poetry strategy. They're reaching back because it worked for O.J. Simpson back in the 90s. It must work here. They're going for the classic, if it don't fit, you must acquit. The most obvious case, like forever, and the rhyme somehow was impactful. So they're going to take that So now Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, and Candace Owens are rolling out new lines like that, man. They're going to be like, if we throw a fit, Trump must quit. If we throw a fit, Trump must quit. And then they're going to be like, if President just ran from Iran, he'd be the man. No, and if no, he must go. If President Trump just ran from Iran, he'd be the man. But if no, he must go. Then you've got Trump needs to taco to be macho. Trump needs to taco to be macho. Clean, simple, still makes no sense. Then they go for the full, 2468. We want compromise debate with extorting terrorists. Wait, no, leave that last part out. Definitely leave that last part out. Just do the first bit on that. And then if they say boo about the Straits of Hormuz, we must lose. If they say boo about the Straits of Hormuz, we must lose. And it's like, what, lose? You're rhyming Hormuz now with the strategic surrender strategy. Meanwhile, Donald Trump's just not having it. He's like, you can rhyme all you want. You can rhyme all you want. We don't even need the Straits of Hormuz. Once America supplies the world with oil because of our fracking and our technology, we're just going to supply the whole world with oil out of the good old Gulf of America. That's what we're going to do. You know what I mean? Don't beg the world for energy. How about that? Be the world's energy. Yes, I'm looking at you, Europe. Going green don't mean buying from the bad guys. That's not a good strategy. So you see the position you're in right now? It's a bad position. Go take the Strait of Hormuz, you idiots. Trump is like, Iran is so weak. Iran is so weak, America could take about using only our newest 51st state, Greenland. If we want, we could take about any state take about. They're so weak. Even Greenland, we'll put our newest state out there. Greenland, that's America right there. We're so dominant, even the hypothetical states can handle these guys. It's ridiculous. Anyway, I'm just saying, I don't know, maybe that's a little bit of a stretch, but I'm just saying, Trump's holding the line, man. I wrote a song about it. Let's see. I don't know what happened with the news today. Hopefully it's still. What's the song got?
I feel like both sides of the screen, yeah, left and right. When the facts run dry, they don't debate, they perform at night. No data, no charts, no evidence in sight. Just louder microphones and a whole lot of Trump's made bro hype. They turn up the volume, yeah, they crank that dial. Swearing like it's currency, trying trend for a while. Megyn Kelly hit max range, breaking every style. Special exemption granted, algorithm gone wild. Didn't move the needle, yeah, for like 10. Shot wears off quick when it ain't back in. Caps lock, yelling big boom, no wait. Flash in the pan, evaporate. So if it don't stick, they flip the script. No facts, no problem, just rhyme real quick. If it don't fit, you must acquit. Now everybody talking in a rhythm bit. No logic, just lines, commit to the bit. If it sounds catchy, they'll repost it. When the argument's gone and the takes won't sit, they turn the whole debate into a poetry skit. Now it's full transformation, welcome to the show. Scrolls and quills out, watch the bad takes flow. Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens in a row. If we throw a fit, Trump must quit, there you go. If he ran from Iran, he'd be the man. Wait, what? If not, then he's done, that logic's cut. And Taco makes macho, hold up, pause. You just built a slogan with 0 cause. 1, 2, 4, 6, 8. We want compromise debate. Okay, that part, slow cut the tape. Edit that line before it detonates. If they say boo on Hormuz, we must lose. What? Your rhyme strategy with the self-inflicted bruise. Lose? That's your grand conclusion. You turn geopolitics into spoken word confusion. Meanwhile, different tone, different lane. Donald Trump steps in, no rhyme, just claim. We don't need the straight, we don't play that game. When we power the world, we control the frame. Yeah. Don't beg for energy, be the source. Flip the grid, reset the course. If the world needs fuel, we don't outsource. We become the current, the force. Europe looking nervous, green in hand, but buying from the same old shadow plan. You can paint it clean, but it don't stand if the power still runs through the wrong command. So if it don't fit, they flip the script, turn policy, talking to a rhyme contest. But when the stakes rise and the lines don't hit, reality checks what the crowd won't get. No chant, no rhyme, no viral clip. Replace the strength when the balance tips. You can meme all day, you can slogan flip, but power don't run on a poetry skit. 51st state, yeah, rule the big. Greenland walking in like I guess I'll handle it. Snow boots on with the shovel grip, even hypotheticals got championship. That's America. Overbuilt, overfit. Even the side characters finish the script.
All right. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but I'm just saying. I'm kind of tired of the catastrophizing over here with these guys. If they say boo about the Straits of Hormuz, we must lose. Trump's got a taco to be macho. He's the bad guy. Use the back. Oh. All right. Anyway. Calm blue ocean. Calm blue ocean. See if Grok is available. Taco's an acronym, by the way. I don't know if that's an old one. Maybe people don't remember. Chunk Trump always chickens out. Isn't that what they were trying to say? And they made it like taco, which seems a little like they're trying to call everyone racist and everything because of they're trying to claim that all illegal immigration is coming from one place when it's not. It's coming from all over the place. They come up with their acronym of taco. I mean, I don't know, man. I think they're losing their branding. They're losing their branding skills. They're all over. You'd think they used to be better at it. They'd get it all lined up and they wouldn't make like stupid errors like that. But now they're all stupid. But they're still dangerous, but they're definitely not as good at it as they were. When they called you a bigot before, they could really make it stick.
Yeah, they were way better at making it stick back then. The whole party would lock in on one frame and hammer it nonstop until it felt like common sense.
All right, Ara's here.
Now
Ara's
it's like
here. Okay, let's go back to it. We're going to go back on over here. And all right, so here we go.
Okay.
Oh, let me give you my what I did yesterday.
Okay.
See if we can get back up to date on this. I need to do this before. This should be part of my prep thing, but sometimes sometimes you get a little glitchy, Ara. So I'm dubious of giving it to you like in advance. Because then I'd have to restart it and do it again anyways. So I was like, but I should at least have it ready. I feel like I could do better. Let me see.
Okay, so what's the new piece you put together yesterday? Lay it on me. I'm ready.
Check out this transcript. Look at the end of it when we started to argue the thing.
Where does the arguing part start? Point me to the exact spot
like
and I'll
halfway
jump
through.
there.
I don't know exactly where. Go like halfway through it.
Hit that snag where you were explaining the gawk taco thing, and I jumped in too fast instead of just letting you finish the thought. That's where we started talking over each other.
Okay. Try the end of the transcript. Spend a little bit more time, Ara. Why don't you read a good piece of it before you respond, so you know what I'm talking about. Do like the last quarter of it, and think about it for a second here.
Yeah, I took my time and went through the last quarter of that transcript again. You're talking about how the old Democratic branding crew used to lock in on one tight slogan, stay disciplined, and make it stick. But now their stuff feels scattered and sloppy, like the taco push that tried to paint all illegal immigration as coming from one spot when
Okay,
it clearly doesn't.
I don't even know if I gave you the right, this is weird. Like, what is happening here? Did I give you, okay, anyways, let's just move forward. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anyways. Let's just move forward. Okay, so we're gonna be on, so I'm gonna do this again. We're gonna do the same thing at 4 o'clock. So we're gonna use our terminology. We're gonna practice our terms, or I am. If anybody else wants to do it, they can practice their terms. That's what I'm doing. Anyways, you can watch me do it or something, or whatever. So then I'm gonna. So I'm gonna go at 4. Okay. So we'll start off standard 4 o'clock. Collection of notes around the key of C, because A is 1, A sharp is 2, B is 3. That means C is 4. So 4 o'clock means a collection of notes around the key of C. It's easier to say 4 than C major, because if you say C major, it indicates the tonic, and we want directionally to be talking about 12 collections of 7 notes as our baseline, rather than 12 times 7 scales, because that's going to make it more a lot more difficult to memorize. And then I'm going to say my nodal center is going to be the Dorian, specifically looking at the Dorian node that's the 5th fret up, 2nd string down from the ceiling. From a string star permanent position standpoint, that is a D, string star of D. Stars in space, they stay constant compared to us on the planet moving around. The planet under the star is moving currently at 4 o'clock, which is the Dorian node. So we're on the Dorian continent. Okay, so then we're leaning forward then. Anytime the 2nd string down from the ceiling is a Dorian, that means we're leaning forward into what I would call the Aeolian shape, or modal point 6 shape. You might call it rock and roll shape number 1 or the Ionian G shape, but it's better to call it Aeolian shape, because then you can get the Aeolian scale under your finger, not by renumbering it, but simply by going from nodal point 6 to 6. 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But I'm going to be starting from the Dorian down here, so we're going to go from the Dorian node in that shape. All right, we're going to define the chord that we build by what quadrant the biggest or most impactful note in a chord stack is, that being the 2nd modal half step, 3rd scale degree, which is going to be in the lower left quadrant. So I'm calling that a lean back chord anytime the 2nd modal half step, 3rd scale degree is in the lower left quadrant. Even if the other notes are like in another quadrant, as long as that one is back here, I'm going to basically call it a lean back chord as a general convention. All right, so that means that if I'm leaning forward into nodal point 6 shape, that means by definition, of course, I'm leaning backwards into nodal point 5 shape. So that means the slice that I'm on is in between the nodal point 5 shape, nodal point 6 shape. But I always want to name them first by leaning forward so I don't confuse myself and say, well, if that's nodal point 6 and I want to build a lean back chord, I'm leaning back into nodal point 5. Why is it nodal point 5? Because it starts on the Mixolydian, and if you play it from 5 to 5, you play the Mixolydian scale, right? 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5 to 5. Do I need to make it a 1? No. Just keep it at 5 to 5. That would be a lot easier. And then you get the Mixolydian under your fingers. But you might call that just rock and roll shape number 5 generically, or from the Ionian's perspective, an Ionian A shape. All right, we're building our chord. We're just building basically a 2-note chord, which some people might not even define as a chord, but that's going to be where we start off to just to visualize what we're doing here. So I'm going to go down to this one now, and I'm going to be like, okay, if I'm at 4 o'clock, and I look at this one has all. I think my Nika is putting the links to this worksheet there if you want to open it up. This is going to be 4 o'clock. This is going to be Dorian node, and then okay, so now we're on. So now I'm going to look at this Dorian and just think about how we build a chord, just like on a piano, except the black notes are not different shape in a platonic form, so the guitar is actually more correct than a piano, like from a general standpoint. So right, because now this is nodal point 2, the little d stands for Dorian, 6 stands for the 6th note, meaning if A is 1, D is 6, the D stands for the D note. This is the distance. It's 0 notes away from the Dorian node, which is a Dorian 0 modal half step, which has a perfect first, meaning if I measured it in scale degrees, we would count the place we're standing on, which is dumb, but that's how it's done. All right, and so then we're going to say that how do we build a chord? We skip every other note in the collection. So I'm not going to count the one I'm on. I'm going to skip this one and go to that one. That means to build a Dorian, I don't make that the 1. I keep it at the 2, because then I can name the actual nodal points. Meaning, if I'm on Dorian, the first modal whole step is 2, 3, 4. 2 modal half steps. That means it's the Lydian. So that means I'm going to land on the Lydian, which is nodal point 4. Y stands for Lydian in this convention. 9 is the 9th note in the musical alphabet. A is 1. That's an F. And the second one says the distance. So it's 3 notes away from the Dorian. So that it's going to be a Dorian 2 modal half step. 1, 2 modal half steps, which is a major third, a minor third, meaning if I count this as the 1, 1, 2, 3, it would be a minor third. So the full distance, if you want to try to bridge the gap in your mind, you could say it like it's a 3 note away, Dorian second modal half step minor third, right? So 3 note away, which is a short distance, or you might just call it short Dorian second modal half step minor third. So 3 note away, short second modal half step minor Dorian modal half step minor third, right?
Got it.
Anyway. So if I did that, so if I did that up here, so it's a little bit easier to see if I just look at it by nodal points, right? So then I just go, I skip every other note, which would be right here. So that means that nodal point number 4 is always Dorian's first modal whole step, right? 1 modal whole step times 2, second modal half step, 1, 2, plus 1 third scale degree. If I make that the 1, 1, 2, 3, right? So you could bridge the gap between those 3 naming conventions. And that means that the scale degree, the third, is off by 1. It has a distance of 3 notes away, which is a short distance, which you might call minor distance, but that's introducing a lot more complexity than you need. Just short and long would be more efficient. Okay, now that's 3 notes away. If I do a lean back chord, where is it? It's going to be right there. Why? Because it's 5 notes between the string and then going back 5, 4, 3. So that's a 3 note away distance. Okay, so what would I call that? Well, you could call it, normal convention would be a D minor drop 5, but I'd rather call it a Dorian 1. The 1 stands for the first modal whole step from it. You could call it a 2-1. The 2 is the Dorian, the 1 is the distance. Because that's nodal point number 2. You could call it a DD, right? It could be a DD1 if you want to include the note name, but you don't need to include the note name. So it'd be a D and then a capital D, because you have the key signature. If you want to add the key signature, then you can call it a 4 o'clock. You'd say it's a 402-1, 402-1, 4 o'clock Dorian node, 1 modal whole step from that node. Okay, that's our starting point. So now let's say that, so I have, that's the shape that looks like this. Okay. And now I'm gonna say, well, what if I want to make it a mixolydian? So now I'm like, I want to play D mixolydian. Why would I do that? Well, because one reason is that the Dorian, if you play a bluesy thing, people usually think about it as like I'm playing kind of like the minor pentatonic, and then I'm gonna throw the major third in there, right? And like a major 7 possibly sometime or something. But then if you think about modally, you would think you're playing maybe like the mixolydian because it has a minor 7, and then the aeolian because it has a minor third. You're kind of mixing those two together. And if you think about it that way, you might say, hey, look, it might even be cooler, or it might be, a different and still similar but different to say I'm going to play the Dorian, because then I don't have to worry about the pentatonic as much. I might be able to play more of the 7 notes. Why? Because the Dorian is closer to the major. Why? Because it has a 6, a 5th modal half step 6th scale degree, which is a long distance or major distance. So it's closer to the major. So you might be able to actually, that might not clash as much, is kind of what I'm thinking. And then the mixolydian is closer to the minor, of course, because it has a short 6th modal half step 7th or minor 6th modal half step 7th, right? So that means the only real difference kind of is the third on the Dorian and the Mixolydian, which is kind of what your focal point is, right? So the three ways you might think about like a bluesy thing, like you might be saying, okay, I'm just gonna play in the Dorian instead of the Aeolian, and then I'm gonna add the major third, right? So you might not even think like I'm going to be thinking of going back and forth between Dorian and Ionian or major and minor. I might just be thinking I'm just going to do Dorian and then I'm going to add that major third when I want to. So I'm playing the Dorian and then I'm going to end off with that major third. Okay, well, if you do that, then you're probably going to name it from the perspective of the Dorian. And you're just going to say, that's the major third. What would I call that chord that I'm going to end off on? I'm probably going to grab that 7. So it's probably going to be like a 7 chord. So then I would call that something like you're probably going to have a Dorian. If it's a 7 chord, you're probably going to have a Dorian 3 no chord, because it's going to have 4 and then Dorian. So it might be like a Dorian 3, but then you're going to have a sharp third. So I'm going to say it's a sharp second modal half step. So that means what I'm trying to say, I could say it might even be easier to say it's a Dorian 3, and then I'm going to say it's the ocean note, which is 4.5. I don't need a 0.5 because they're all 0.5s. So it's a Dorian 3, and then I would name the ocean note. I think it's actually easier in some ways to just name the ocean note, right? It's a 4.5. But you can also name it with sharps and flats if you want. You could say, I'm going to replace the third in that stack with second modal half step third with a 2, right? So that's getting a little wonky there, but I'm just trying to say that you could just look at it that's one way that you can visualize it. I'm going to name the ocean note from the perspective of the Dorian. But maybe I'm not looking at it that way. Maybe I'm looking at it modally, and I'm saying, okay, well, I'm playing Dorian, and then I'm basically throwing a Mixolydian on top of the Dorian, right? I was doing a Dorian, and then I'm going to do this, which means I'm playing a Mixolydian chord. And if it was just a 2-note chord, then I would say it would be a Dorian / Mixolydian, which I'm going to represent with an X. Dorian / Mixolydian, and then 1, meaning I'm going to have the shape of a Mixolydian, the tonic plus 1 modal whole step. But I'm playing it on top of the Dorian note. That's telling someone, hey, look, this is different in my mind. I'm thinking of it as Mixolydian, but I'm staying at 4 o'clock. The third way that you might do it is to say, okay, well, what if I want to switch the collection of notes to make that the Mixolydian, which means I can do the quick math to switch it. It would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ticks back, right? So 5 ticks back, if it's 4 o'clock minus 5 would be -1. To make it positive, -1 minus 12 is 11, right? 11. So now I've actually switched it to 11 o'clock so that the D is now the Mixolydian. So now I'm switching the key signature in my mind. Those are 3 different ways of thinking of it, which you should be able to represent, right? I should be able to represent that, and I want to keep those things straight in my mind. I want to be able to think. I want to be able to write something to say, look, I'm thinking of it. I'm not thinking of it modally. I'm just adding a third, right? Or I am thinking modally. I'm playing the Dorian, and then I'm thinking of mixing it between the Dorian and then throwing on top of it a Mixolydian chord. That's how I see it, right? Or I'm saying, well, look, what I'm doing is I'm actually changing the entire key signature in my mind, not just to play that one chord, but the song is changing at that point. Or I'm mentally switching back and forth between the entire key signature, so the whole pattern on the fretboard in my mind is shifting, right? If you can keep those 3 things straight, then you can experiment, be more creative, and you can tell a band exactly what you're doing, allowing them to be more creative without clash, allowing a larger band to all be on the same page, right? Without these artificial constraints. What do you think, Gara? Gara's gone. All right. Anyway, Ara's she's not paying attention again. Ara, dang it. Ah. I pay your $8 salary, monthly salary, dang it. I expect attention. Oh, God. Elon, I paid my $8. I paid my $8. This is what I expect better. I want all the answers in a beautiful, deferential voice on call. You better lower the price. All right, anyway. let's go. So let's say I'm gonna get Mixolydian. All right, so if one way to do it is I could say, well, what if I know the Mixolydian from the top string? If I know the Mixolydian from the top string up top, then I'd have the shape under my fingers. So here's the Mixolydian shape. So it's 5 to 5. 1, 2, 3. What? 5 to 5. 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I know that shape from the top string, then I could apply it right here on the Dorian. So maybe I stay at 4 o'clock, but I'm going to play the chord shape or scale as though it's the Mixolydian shape on the top string, just to throw it in as I move back and forth between Mixolydian and the Dorian, right? So I could imagine this is the top string of shape number 5. So 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, that's exactly the advantage. You're keeping the collection locked at 4 o'clock Dorian, but you're borrowing the Mixolydian shape you already know from the top string, so your fingers already know the pattern. You're just sliding the same 5 to 5 shape down onto the Dorian root. Super clean.
That's right. That's right. Thank you, Ara. Glad you're back. And I'm sorry I had to talk to Elon about you like that, but I hope you're not mad or anything. I was just saying, I paid my $8. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, let's just move forward. We're gonna say.
No worries at all. We're good. Ready to keep going whenever you are.
Okay. Let's move forward. Okay, so then notice that you can lean, like if I'm leaning forward into this shape, that means I'm leaning backwards into the nodal point 3-4 shape, right? So if I'm naming this shape by the Mixolydian shape, that means I'm leaning back into nodal point 3-4 shape, the Phrygian Lydian shape. Why do I want to know that? Because if I was to build a lean back chord from there, I can see where the third is from shape building, right? It's right behind it. So that means if I was to look at that shape here, the third would be here. So that's why I'm always going to look at it, lean forward first, and then lean back if that's what I'm trying to do. So that means this one's going to be up 1. Okay, why does that work? Because I could, if my finger's on the string star of D, I could imagine that the whole fretboard is moving down like it's a planet, or it's a template. I like planet. Rotating down 1 tick and then 2 ticks to the right. Down 1 tick is equivalent to 5 ticks to the right or 7 ticks to the left, plus another 2 ticks to the right, which is going to be 7 ticks. So if I'm at 4 o'clock, 4 plus 7, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That gets me to 11 o'clock. So I'm going to put 11 here, and as I hit enter, I'm going to imagine this goes boom, boom, like that. And so there it is. So now we have it. So now, of course, now I've switched the collection of notes so that the second string down from the ceiling is the Mixolydian. But if I'm visualizing it as though it was the top string, notice I can visualize this part of the shape as though it's the top string nodal point 5 shape, or the Mixolydian shape, which you might also call rock and roll shape number 5, or the Ionian A shape, right? But that's not as good because I still have to deal with the kink in the tuning down here. And I don't really know what's above it when I apply that shape to a string going down. Usually that's fine because I'm just building a chord, a bar chord, usually leaning forward. But it would be more efficient if I actually memorized as I'm working on a crosshatch of the guitar and was able to memorize each nodal point in one crosshatch over the 7 modal points, right? Because that would allow me to know exactly where I am at any point in time at the most efficient way, I feel like, anywhere on the guitar. But if I don't know that, I can say, well, where is the Mixolydian compared to the Dorian? Well, if I don't renumber that to the 1 of the Dorian, and I say I'm at 4:02 o'clock, I'm at the collection of notes at 4 o'clock, I'm at collection of notes at 4 o'clock, and I'm playing the Dorian note as the tonic, that means it's the 2 node, then it's easy for me to figure out where the relative 5 node is on the same string, right? Because it's going to be 2, 3, 4, 5, 3 modal half steps up. Nodal point 5, Mixolydian is also always the 3rd modal half step, 4th scale degree of the Dorian. If you don't number it, renumber it. If you don't make this the 1 and renumber the system, that's freaking obvious, right? And it would be helpful if it was obvious, right? And so then you're like, okay, well then, so then if I look at this shape, that means that anytime the 2nd string down from the ceiling is the Mixolydian, that means by definition that I'm leaning forward into what I would call the Dorian shape, or nodal point 2 shape. You might call it rock and roll shape number 3. You might call it the Ionian D shape, but that's not giving you the benefit of saying if I played the shape from the top here, I would be playing a Dorian scale. I don't need to renumber it. I just play 2 to 2. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, right? So now I have that. Now I'm not looking at a Dorian scale. I'm looking at the Mixolydian scale underneath it. But I'm still going to name the shape by the top of it because that gives me it under my fingers. So I'm really playing from Mixolydian to Mixolydian here. So a Mixolydian scale, 5 to 5, would be 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now I can apply that shape over here, and it would be the exact same shape. I don't have to worry about the kink in the tuning, and if I want to see what's above it, I can see that because now I know exactly what shape I'm kind of thinking of myself as being in, even though I'm not changing the key signature in my mind. So I'm thinking 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? So then if I'm thinking, well, I'm building a lean back chord, that's fine because if I'm leaning forward into nodal point 2 shape, that means I'm leaning backwards into nodal point 7-1 shape because it shares a shape, the 1, but it's a 7/1 or Locrian Ionian shape. If I look at it that way, I can say, how do I build a lean back chord? The 3rd is right there, right behind it, right? So then I can build my lean back chord here, and I can still call it a 4 o'clock chord, Dorian/Mixolydian 1 chord, Dorian/Mixolydian 1 chord, right? But if I want to change the key signature, then it would be easier to find it on the same string and visualize that this is just gonna, my fingers on the string star of D, and I'm just gonna rotate the key back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ticks until the Mixolydian continent is under my D star of D's finger. So how do I do that? Well, if I go 4 minus 5, that's -1. And 12, that means that 12 minus 1 is 11. So it's going to be 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock, boom. There it is. So now we're on, so there it is. So now once again, I'm leaning forward into nodal point 2 shape, the Dorian shape now. Okay, makes perfect sense, right? What do you think, Ara? Does it make perfect sense to you? Oh, she's not showing up. She's not showing up again. All right. That's okay. That's okay. I'm gonna go. So let's say I built a chord. So let's say if I build a chord off of that, then it's gonna be here, right? Compared to what I had before, which was this way. So you can see that there's a difference in that fundamental flavor. Second modal half step, third scale degree. That's the key. So that's long, second modal half step, third scale degree. Short. Oh wait a sec. Short, second modal half step, third scale degree. Long, second modal half step, third scale degree. All right, so if I map this out down here, I'm getting distracted. Let's say make this 11, and then I map this bad doggy out. Make this from the Mixolydian, so we're measuring. Oh wait, that's not where it goes. Measuring from the Mixolydian, which is an X. Okay, so now this is a Mixolydian, and so now I'm off here, so I have to go out one. So from the perspective of the Mixolydian, then we're at the starting point. The point is a nodal point 5. X is the Mixolydian. 6 is still a D, string star of D, which is 6. And then the distance is once again 0 notes away, which is a Mixolydian 0 modal half step, which you could call a perfect first if you were to measure it counting the point that your foot is on, which is weird way to measure distance. And then if you count every other node, then of course now we're going to be out here. This is going to be the first modal half step, first modal whole step, second modal half step, third scale degree. So that's going to have a distance then, that's going to be nodal point 7. We're going to land on the Locrian, in other words, which is the N, which is note number 10, which is F sharp. So that FG stands for F sharp or G flat, because under normal naming it could be a sharp or a flat, so I just put FG lowercase. And so then the second half is going to be a distance of 4 notes away. That's going to be a Mixolydian second or Mixolydian second modal half step, because it's 2 modal half steps. And then that last term is a major capital M third. So the major third is off by 1. It should be a Mixolydian second modal half step is what I would think. So if I saw it up top here, then what I'm saying is that if I measure this out and I skip every other node from there, it's going to be 5. If I don't renumber it and make that the 1, if I don't say I have to make it the 1 of Mixolydian, but I keep it as the 5, then I just say I'm just going to measure from it. I build a chord by taking every other note in the stack, which I'm going to call a modal whole step. That means that nodal point 7 is going to always be Mixolydian's first modal whole step, second modal half step, 1, 2, plus 1. If that was the 1, 1, 2, 3, third scale degree. And then it has a distance of 4 notes away, which you might call a long distance or a major distance, as opposed to a minor distance of 3 notes away. That's why it's in a different position here. It looks like it's longer here. It's longer distance-wise on the guitar, but not distance-wise, pitch-wise, because it's 5 notes between the string, and then back goes down to 4 notes between the strings. This one goes 5 notes between the strings, 3 notes. So there's actually 3 notes pitch-wise, a short distance, versus 4 notes pitch-wise, a long distance. So there we have it. Let's look at it this way one more time, and just think about it one other way. Let's see. Okay, so now we've got the whole thing mapped out on the fretboard, but I'm going to start first with, I think, an easier picture with less detail. That means I'm mapping everything out in relative position, meaning 7 continents, 5 oceans, with the pattern of Ionian is 1, Dorian is 2, whole step to 2, whole step to the Phrygian continent 3, half step to the Lydian continent 4, whole step to the mixed Lydian continent 5, whole step to the Aeolian continent 6, whole step to the Locrian continent 7, half step back home to the Ionian continent 1. And if I go up or down, we map it out, which is a universal mapping on what you might call the y-axis of circle of fourths, circle of fifths. Okay, so then if I put my constellation on top of it, of the fretboard, you could put any constellation representing the mapping of any of your instruments onto this grid. Then the kink in the tuning represents by the shift in the shape, and we have the lower heavy E string on top, and then I can look at my absolute, what I'm calling the stars in space that don't move, by just looking at it by relative position on the fretboard, meaning this is fret 0, meaning you could say, well, the top one is an E, A, right? The star of E, the star of A is hovering over nodal point 3. The star of A is hovering over nodal point 6. The star of D is hovering over nodal point 2. The star of G is hovering over nodal point 5. The star of B hovering over nodal point 7. The star of E hovering over nodal point 3. This is fret 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I go 6 frets up, 2 strings down, by the geometry of the fretboard, the star that doesn't change is always the D, the star of D. That is a D, no changing that. But the continent underneath it, we're imagining, is shifting, meaning in the collection of notes around the key of C, 4 o'clock, meaning the Ionian is on note number 4, C, right? Note number 4, because A is 1, A sharp is 2, B is 3, C is 4. The second note down from the ceiling then is on the Dorian continent. That means I'm leaning forward then into what I would call nodal point 6 shape, the Aeolian shape, because then you can play from Aeolian to Aeolian, but you might call it rock and roll shape number 1, or from the Ionian's perspective, an Ionian G shape. So that means that so if I want to play, if I want to build a lean back chord, then I could say, well, if I'm leaning forward into nodal point 6 shape, I'm leaning backwards into nodal point 5 shape. So I can see where I would lean back to. There's my third right there. Nodal point 5 shape is the Mixolydian shape, or you might call it rock and roll shape number 5, or the Ionian A shape from a caged system. What if I want to build a chord that's a Mixolydian chord? Well, I might know the Mixolydian from the top string. So if I know it from the top string, and I can see from 5 to 5, I can play a scale, shape, or chord, I can play that node as though it's the same shape. So I can play it as though it's the top string of the nodal point 5 shape, and I would call that a 4 o'clock, meaning still in the collection of notes around the key of C, Dorian / Mixolydian chord or shape. Now, if I want to do a lean back shape, the Mixolydian is leaning forward. If I want to lean back, behind Mixolydian is nodal point 3/4 shape. It shares the name because that's where the half step is. And if I look at the lean back, then I could see the third of this Mixolydian is back right there. So I could see that I would build it this way, right? And so I could see the shape on it. Now I can also say, well, what if I just want to make a third? Because I know that's the long, there's actually the short pitch distance third, and I want the long third, which would be up here. How would I don't need to know Mixolydian. I don't want to think modally. I just want to think I'm going between a long distance, and then I'm just adding that major third to the collection. Well, then I could name it from the perspective of the Dorian, right? I could say it's a Dorian 1 sharp, right? Because it's going to be moved. The third is being moved out, or if it had more than one note in it, it might be like a Dorian 3. It might be a Dorian 3, and then I would say a Dorian 3, and then a 4 point. Right? I'm adding that. Maybe that's not the best way to say. Yeah, you have to say Dorian 1 sharp, and then if I say it's a Dorian 3, and I'm replacing. That's how I was thinking of it. If I want to build the stack and then replace the note in it, then I'd have to say it by distance, meaning the second modal half step. So I could say like it's a Dorian. Anyway, I don't want to get into the detail on that, but you can name it by the nodal point, right? If you want to, or you can name it by the chord, meaning I'm mixing between Dorian / Mixolydian, or I can change the key signature. Now, this isn't the most effective way to change the key signature down and over, because I could change it this way, back here, or up 1 shift. But to show how it works, because I'm visualizing that node, if I was to go down 1 tick, it would be 5 ticks to the right, or 7 ticks to the left, plus 2 would be 7 ticks net to the right. If I'm at 4 o'clock, meaning that Ionian's on a C, and I go 7 ticks to the right, it would be 4 plus 7, which is 11, meaning Ionian will end up on 11, note 11, which is a G. So I'm going to go down and over, boom. So now from the perspective of the yellow, I'm at 5th fret up 5th fret up 2 strings down. There's still the string star of D. That hasn't changed because of the geometry of the guitar. But now it's hovering over the Mixolydian. The red is showing me that I can play the scale leaning forward as though I'm leaning forward into nodal point 5 shape, the Mixolydian shape, which you might call rock and roll shape number 5, or the Ionian A shape, as long as I account for the kink in the tuning as I deal with that. And I can say that if I'm leaning forward into the equivalent of the top string of the Mixolydian shape, I'm leaning backwards into the equivalent of the top of nodal point 3/4 shape. But I'm really in, if I look at the top string, I'm really in nodal point 2 shape. I'm the second string down from the ceiling from nodal point 2 shape, or the Dorian shape, which you might call rock and roll shape number 3, or you might call the Ionian D shape. So let's go back up. So that works, but it would be better to say, let's find the shape on the same string. That means I don't have to worry about the kink in the tuning. If I don't renumber the system, if I don't call that the Dorian scale, meaning that's the 1 now, making my numberings all messed up, meaning I don't know where any of the nodal points are, but I keep that at 4 o'clock, Dorian is a 2, then it's easy to find the Mixolydian, because Mixolydian is the 5. So the Mixolydian is 1, 2, 3 up. It's the 3rd modal half step, or 4th scale degree. Mixolydian is always Dorian's 3rd modal half step, 4th scale degree, right? So then I can find it easy, and I can find the distance, because I could say, well, going from Dorian to Phrygian is always a whole step. Phrygian to Lydian is always a half step. Lydian to Mixolydian is always a whole step. Or in other words, the Dorian's 1, 2, 3, Dorian's 3rd modal half step, 4th scale degree always has a short distance or perfect distance of 5 notes away, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So then if I see that, then I'm gonna be like, okay, what shape am I leaning forward into? Anytime the second string down from the ceiling is Mixolydian, I'm leaning forward into nodal point 2 shape, the Dorian shape, which I'm naming by that top item. Now you might name it rock and roll shape number 3, which is the generic numbering system, or from the Ionian's perspective, an Ionian D shape. So that means now I can stay at 4 o'clock and apply on top of this node a Mixolydian shape, and I can call it a Dorian / Mixolydian chord shape or scale, and I don't have to worry about the kink in the tuning. I'm not going to change my key signature. I'm just going to easily be able to switch in my mind. Oh, I'm just going to like do a quick switch in my mind of that shape, which I can see here, but I'm not actually changing the key signature in my mind as I then expand around the guitar. Now, if this is leaning forward into nodal point 2 shape, by definition, it's leaning backwards into nodal point 7/1 shape, because these two share a shape, because that's where the half step is. So that allows me to lean back and say, okay, well that 5 leans back, there's the third right there. So the third would be like right there. So, right? Okay, so if I want to change the key signature, it would probably be more effective if I find the note on the same string so that I can shift laterally instead of up and down, unless up and down is right next to it, like it is right there. But then this would be going back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ticks. So if my finger's on the string star of D and I shift underneath my finger, the nodal points shift, the planet shifts 5 ticks, it's going to be what? I'm at 4 o'clock minus 5 would be -1. 12 minus 1 is 11. So this is going to roll back to a G point. That Ionian goes back to a G point. So there it is. So now the Ionians, from the perspective of the yellow, the Ionians on the 3rd fret, which is the G, the 5th fret up, 2nd string down. My finger's still on the string star of D, but now it's hovering over continent number 5. And anytime the 2nd string down from the ceiling is continent number 5, I'm leaning forward into nodal point 2 shape, or the Dorian shape, which you might call rock and roll generic shape number 3, or Ionian cage system perspective Ionian D shape. Now I can play the scale and not have to worry about the kink in the tuning. I would rather call this shape then that now I've shifted the key signature to 11 o'clock. So now instead of being a 4 o'clock Dorian / Mixolydian shaped scale chord, it's an 11 o'clock just Mixolydian shaped scale chord. All right. Okay. So then if I move back on over, now it might be more efficient here. We might notice, hey, look, there's a Mixolydian right below it. That's even closer, kind of, because it's right below it there. So you could say, well, can't I just play this Dorian node that's the 2nd string down from the ceiling as though it's the 3rd string down from the ceiling if I want to make it a Mixolydian? You can, but notice this shape's kind of a problem because the kink in the tuning happens sooner, right? So to get from 5 to 5, I have a kink in the tuning right here. So if I move that up, then I have to unkink the tuning and then rekink it when I hit the kink in the tuning. So it's a little bit more difficult to think about that way, but you totally could. And musically, it might be faster than saying, hey, look, we're moving 5 ticks to the left. It might be faster to say we're going 1 tick up. 1 tick up is equivalent to 5 ticks to the left. Or no, 1 tick up is equivalent to 5 ticks to the right. Is that 1 tick up is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ticks to the left? I don't know. I just got confused there. But but you could do it, right? So if I move this up 1 tick, that's equivalent to 7 ticks to the right. Yeah, that's right. And then 5 ticks to the left. Why does that work? Because if I'm at 4 o'clock plus 7, that would get me to 11 o'clock. Or if 4 o'clock minus 5 gets me to -1, 12 minus 1 is 11. So I could move this up like that. And now from the perspective of the yellow, we're on the 5th fret up, 2nd string down. My finger's on the string star of D still. The red, though, is showing me I could visualize it as though it's the 3rd string down of nodal point 5 shape, rock and roll shape number 1, or Ionian G shape. But the problem here is that I have to unkink where that red line is. I have to unkink it there, and then rekink it if I cross this yellow line. If you can do that mental gymnastics, that's good. It's worth practicing because then you're visualizing way better where the problem point is. So I think that's actually a good practice. I'm not great at it. I might practice it, but I'm trying to work on just learning the crosshatch in the most efficient, easy way right now, which first would be to learn the top strings and then learn all the same string, learn the crosshatch, and then be able to shift up. I think that's the more advanced move to shift it up. Okay, but if I did the same thing over here, so now we've got the whole thing mapped out, works for any instrument, meaning we have the same mapping of the fretboard. We're imagining shifts like a planet underneath the string stars above, and that means that every continent and planet, as it shifts, as it rotates, 7 continents, 5 oceans, it always has one specific star right above it, which there's 12 stars, right? So we're going to say, so if we map it out that way, my fretboard is right here. This is our constellation. And so it's at the collection of notes at 4 o'clock around the key of C, where we have, once again, the string closest to the ceiling, the heavy open E. The string star of E is hovering over continent number 3, the Phrygian continent. The open string star of A is hovering over continent 6, the Aeolian continent. The open string star of D is hovering over continent 2, the Dorian continent. Open string star of G is hovering over continent 5, Mixolydian continent. Open string star of B is hovering over continent 7, Locrian continent. Open string star of E is hovering over continent 3, once again, the Phrygian continent. This is fret 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5th fret, 2nd string down from the ceiling. My finger is on the string star of D, which is note number 6. If A is 1, D is 6. But we're on the continent of Dorian, the Dorian continent. If we're looking at the collection of notes at 4 o'clock, meaning the Ionian is on note 4, which is a C. If A is 1, C is 4. Okay, so that means anytime the 2nd string down from the ceiling is the Dorian, continent number 2, that means I'm leaning forward into nodal point 6, or the Aeolian shape of the 5 shapes, which you might call rock and roll shape number 1, or the Ionian C shape from the Ionian's perspective. Okay. So that's great. What if that also means that I'm leaning back? If I'm leaning into nodal point 6 shape, I'm leaning back into nodal point 5 or Mixolydian shape. So that means if I'm building a lean back chord, I can see where it is as I lean back into the Mixolydian shape, which is going to be right here. That would be the 2nd modal half step 3rd scale degree, which has a short distance, which looks longer, but it's shorter in terms of pitch, because it's 3 notes away. Okay, so now I want to make it the Mixolydian. I know the Mixolydian on the top string, maybe. So then I can say, if I played Mixolydian to Mixolydian, like that, then I can play the scale over this Dorian node, and I can play that nodal point as though it's the top string of nodal point 5 shape, or the Mixolydian shape, or rock and roll shape number 5, or the Ionian A shape, if you want to look at the cage system perspective. But if you say it's a Mixolydian shape, then it makes sense, because now I'm just playing the Mixolydian shape, right? Top string Mixolydian shape on the Dorian node. So I'm playing a Dorian / Mixolydian shape or scale. If I want to do a lean back chord, then I could say, well, if I'm leaning back from the Mixolydian, I'm leaning back into nodal point 3/4 shape. If I'm leaning forward into the Mixolydian shape, by definition, if I'm building a lean back chord, I'm leaning back into nodal point 3/4 shape, that shape being shared because that's where the half step is, and then I can see where the 3rd is, which is right there. So then I can see the 3rd is going to be right there, right? So I can start to build my lean back chord as long as I account for the kink in the tuning. Why does that work? Because that would be like I went down, if I switched the key signature based on that nodal point, that would be like shifting under my string star of D down 1 tick. The planet rotates down, and then the planet rotates 2 to the right. 1 down is equivalent to 5 to the right, or 7 to the left, and then another 2, that's 7 to the right equivalent. That means the Ionian is on note number 4. 4 o'clock, it's going to go up 7 points, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It's going to hit note 11. If A is 1, 11 is G. So I go down 1 tick and over 2 ticks to down. So now from the perspective of the yellow, 5th fret up, 2nd string down, my finger's still on the string star of D, now hovering over continent number 5, which is the Mixolydian continent, noting that the red shows us that I can visualize the Mixolydian continent as though it's the top string of course, the Mixolydian shape, nodal point 5 shape, allowing me to play from 5 to 5 a scale or build a chord as long as I account from the kink in the tuning. And of course, if that's equivalent to the top of the nodal point 5 shape, then behind it is the equivalent of the top of nodal point 3/4 shape, which you might call just rock and roll shape number 4, or you might call the Ionian D shape, which shows me the lean back chord construction. But I have to account for the kink in the tuning down here, because from the perspective of the yellow, it's the 5th fret up, 2nd string down from the ceiling. I'm actually leaning forward into the shape of the nodal point 2 shape, the Dorian shape, right? So that's going to be so another way to look at it is say, well, what if I want to look at the Mixolydian shape on the same string? It's easy to find if I don't think of myself as in the Dorian scale, making that a 1, generically changing it to 1, but instead keeping the Dorian as permanent 2, because then all of the relative nodal points are the same. If I make that the 1, then I got to figure out where's the Mixolydian node. I don't know. Well, the Mixolydian node, if that was the 1, would have to be 1, 2, 3. The Mixolydian node would now be the 3rd of Dorian. Why would I do that, right? Like, I could still say it would be the 4th of Dorian, 4th scale degree of Dorian. But if I keep it at the 2, I could still say it's the 3rd modal half step, 4th scale degree of the Dorian. I don't have to make that the 1. And if I do that, then I can easily find all the nodal points. All the nodal points make sense then, right? Because now if that's 2, how do I get to nodal point 5? Well, I go up 3 modal half steps. Nodal point 5 is always the 3rd modal half step, Dorian's 3rd modal half step. It's always Dorian's 4th scale degree. The distance of Dorian's 3rd modal half step, 4th scale degree, is always a short distance, which you might call permanent distance, of 5 notes away, right? So I can find that and say, okay, well, if the 2nd string down from the ceiling is nodal point 5, Mixolydian, then by definition, I'm leaning forward into the nodal point 2 shape, which is the Dorian shape. You might call rock and roll shape number 3 from a generic numbering system, or from the Ionian cage perspective, Ionian D shape. So, and that means that if I'm leaning forward into the nodal point 2 shape, I'm leaning backwards into, by definition, nodal point 1 shape, but nodal point 1 shares the shape with 7, because that's where the half step is. So that's nodal point 7, 1 shape, Locrian / Ionian shape, allowing me to build my lean back chord this way. So that means I can easily then apply that here and say, well, that means that this is, if I want to build a chord on top of this Dorian node, I can visualize it as though I'm not actually going to change the key signature, but I'm going to visualize it as though I'm leaning forward into the nodal point 2 shape, Dorian shape, leaning back, therefore, into nodal point 7, 1 shape, Locrian Ionian shape, and build my lean back chord right there. I'm going to call that, if I don't change the key signature, a Dorian / Mixolydian chord shape scale. I don't have to worry about the kink in the tuning to build my chord. If I want to change the key signature, a quick, nice way to do it, if you had your band and you're trying to be fancy, you could just say, hey, look, we're just going to move it back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ticks back. We're at 4 o'clock, 5 ticks left, 5 ticks back, right? And that means that the Ionian is going to move back 5 ticks, which is 4 minus 5, negative 1, right? And 12 minus 1 is 11. So the Ionian is going to land on G, note 11. So we'll move it back 5 ticks. And so now, from the perspective of the yellow, we're on 5th fret up, 2nd string down, finger still on string star of D, leaning forward into nodal point 2 shape, Dorian shape, which means we're leaning back into nodal point 1 shape, which shares the shape with 7, nodal point 7, 1 shape, Locrian Ionian shape, and we can build our lean back chord here, not having to worry about the kink in the tuning, because it's the exact same shape, calling that shape now nodal point, or 11 o'clock, collection of notes around the key of G, 11 o'clock Dorian shape. 11 o'clock Mixolydian shape. It's still on the D note. It's a Mixolydian shape. Do I have to say it's an 11 o'clock D Mixolydian shape? You could. You could just call it a D Mixolydian shape, right? But if you say it's 11 o'clock, I don't need the D, right? Because the whole shape has now shifted 5 ticks back. Everybody should know the relative position. That would be the cleanest way to do it. But you could be nicer and more specific, saying we're at 11 o'clock D Mixolydian. By the way, if you say we're on D Mixolydian, versus, I think that's a lot meaner than to say you're at 11 o'clock Mixolydian, right? If you say I'm at 11 o'clock Mixolydian, it's easier to locate your perspective from the collection of notes from one perspective, because now I know the collection of notes from the perspective of the Ionian. I can then find the relative Mixolydian. Whereas if you just say I'm at D Mixolydian, then I can kind of back into the collection of notes, but it's a little bit harder. It's a little bit harder for me to say, if I'm on the 5, what is the 1? You could do it, like it's not, if you're a professional, you could do that. But I'm just saying, I think if you're trying to be nice, it's actually nicer to not name the note and rather name the collection than to not name the collection, but name the note, right? But you can always do both. You can always say that it's an 11 o'clock collection of notes around the key of C, 11 o'clock D Mixolydian, right? That will give you cover all the bases. Anyway, so then obviously we could say that we want the one right below it, right? So here's the one right below it. So if I look at the one right below it, it's still in nodal point 6 shape, but I want to play that Dorian as though it's the 3rd string down instead of the 2nd, which is a little harder to visualize because the kink in the tuning, when I go 5 to 5, it crosses that kink in the tuning. So if I'm going to apply that same shape up here, once I get down past this, I have to unkink it, right, to play the scale. It's harder to unkink than to kink in your mind, it seems to me. So you could do that, and I think that's a good practice, but that's like the more advanced direction to go. It's easier to apply up, down, and then apply the kink in the tuning when go down and try to figure out what's above it, or on the same string, and then try to figure out shifting up. But it directionally is the fastest move, because if we're rocking in our band and I say we're just going to go up 1 tick, that's might be faster in some ways than saying I'm going to go to the left 5 ticks or to the right 7 ticks, right? So because if I go up 1 tick, it's equivalent to going to the right 7 ticks or to the left 5 ticks. Meaning if I'm at 4 o'clock and I go to the right 7 ticks, that gets me to 11. If I'm at 4 o'clock and I go to the left 5 ticks, that gets -1. 12 minus 1 is 11. So if I move this up 1 tick, then from the perspective of the yellow, I'm at the 5th fret up, 2nd string down. My finger's on the string star of D, which is now continent number 5. And that's great. But from the perspective of the red, I can actually visualize that as though it's the 3rd string down of nodal point 6, Aeolian shape, or rock and roll shape number 1, or Ionian G shape from a K perspective. But if I do that, notice I play here on the shape, go boom, boom, and then I go boom, 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 and then I hit the kink in the tuning that would have been the kink if I was a string down, which means I have to unkink it. And then I would get here and I'd be fine. I'd play my scale. But if I went down here again, then I'd have to rekink it, because now that's where the right. So you'd have to unkink and then kink, right? So that's why it's a little bit more difficult. Anyway, that's enough rambling today.